On a quiet morning, September 16, 2025, the world woke to the heartbreaking news that Robert Redford, one of Hollywood's most enduring icons, had passed away at the age of 89. The man with the golden smile, windswept hair, and a charisma that defined an era slipped away peacefully in his sleep at his beloved home in Sundance, Utah, surrounded by those he loved most. His death marked the end of a journey that spanned over 6 decades, leaving behind a legacy woven into the fabric of American cinema and culture. Today, we're going to dive deep into the untold story of Robert Redford, his cause of death, his remarkable career, his family, his loves, his net worth, and the quiet, reflective lifestyle he embraced in his later years. This is a story of triumph, tragedy, and a man who dared to dream beyond the spotlight. So, settle in and let's walk through the life of a true American legend. Charles Robert Redford Jr. was born on August 18, 1936, in Santa Monica, California, a coastal city humming with dreams but shadowed by the struggles of the working class. His father, Charles Sr., was a milkman who later became an accountant for Standard Oil, working long hours to provide for the family. His mother, Martha, was the heart of the household, instilling in young Robert a love for stories and mythology that he'd carry throughout his life. Growing up in Van Nuys, a gritty Los Angeles neighborhood, Robert's childhood wasn't glamorous. The family couldn't afford babysitters, so he spent hours in the local library, lost in books about Greek and Roman gods, planting the seeds for his creative spirit. But life wasn't easy. Robert described himself as a bit of a rebel, a scrappy kid who got into trouble, stealing hubcaps, getting into fights, and feeling like an outsider in a conformist world. When his mother died of a blood disorder in 1955, just as he was entering his late teens, the loss shattered him. He later admitted it left him angry, disillusioned with the religion pushed on him as a child, and searching for meaning. It's emotional to think of that young man, grappling with grief, unaware that his pain would one day fuel the depth he brought to his craft. Robert's early years were a whirlwind of searching. After graduating from Van Nuys High School in 1954, he enrolled at the University of Colorado on a baseball scholarship, but his wild side took over. Heavy drinking led to him losing his scholarship, and he was kicked out after just 18 months. Lost and restless, he wandered to Europe, hitchhiking through France, Italy, and Spain, trying his hand as a painter. He lived in youth hostels, scraping by, chasing an artistic dream that he later admitted wasn't quite right. He called his work unoriginal. But those wandering years weren't wasted. They shaped his perspective, teaching him to see the world through a broader lens. Returning to New York, he studied theatrical design at the Pratt Institute and acting at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. It was here in the late 1950s that he found his true calling. His Broadway debut in 1959's Tall Story was a small step, but his role as Paul Bratter in Neil Simon's Barefoot in the Park in 1963 lit a spark. The stage gave him confidence, but the screen would make him a star. Can you imagine the courage it took to pivot from a troubled youth to standing under Broadway lights, chasing a dream most would have given up on? The 1960s were when Robert Redford became Robert Redford. His film debut in 1962's War Hunt was modest, but by 1967, he was starring opposite Jane Fonda in the film version of Barefoot in the Park, showcasing his charm as a leading man. Then came 1969's Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, the role that launched him into the stratosphere. Playing the Sundance Kid opposite Paul Newman's Butch Cassidy, Robert's laid-back charisma and chemistry with Newman created one of Hollywood's greatest partnerships. The film won 4 Academy Awards, and Robert, at 33, became a heartthrob and a household name. He later said he related to the Sundance Kid's outlaw spirit, a nod to his rebellious youth. The 1970s cemented his status with films like The Sting, earning him a Best Actor Oscar nomination, The Way We Were with Barbra Streisand, and All the President's Men, where he played Bob Woodward, bringing the Watergate scandal to life. Each role was a masterclass in understated power, his blue eyes and easy smile masking a depth that resonated with audiences. It's hard not to feel a pang of nostalgia thinking of those films, movies that didn't just entertain but shaped how we saw the world. But Robert wasn't content to just act. In 1980, He stepped behind the camera for his directorial debut, Ordinary People, a gut-wrenching drama about a family unraveling after the death of a son. The film struck a chord, drawing from Robert's own experiences with grief, his mother's death, the loss of his son Scott, which we'll touch on later. It won 4 Oscars, including Best Picture and Best Director for Robert, a triumph that proved he was more than a pretty face. He continued directing, with films like A River Runs Through It in 1992 and Quiz Show in 1994, both earning critical acclaim for their thoughtfulness. Unlike many stars, he took risks, tackling serious themes like grief, corruption, and identity. His later roles, like 2013's All Is Lost, where he played a solitary sailor with barely any dialogue, showed his willingness to push boundaries even in his 70s. And let's not forget his turn as the villainous Alexander Pierce in 2014's Captain America, the Winter Soldier, proving he could still command the screen at 76. His career wasn't just a job. It was a lifelong pursuit of meaning through art. Beyond acting and directing, Robert Redford changed the landscape of cinema with the Sundance Institute. In 1961, he bought a small plot of land in Utah for $500, building a cabin in the shadow of Mount Timpanogos. Inspired by his love for nature and his role as the Sundance Kid, he later purchased a ski resort called Timp Haven, renaming it Sundance. In 1980, he founded the Sundance Institute to nurture independent filmmakers, and by the 1990s, the Sundance Film Festival had become the heart of indie cinema, launching talents like Quentin Tarantino and Steven Soderbergh. The festival, held in Park City, Utah, grew into a global phenomenon, showcasing over 125 films from 34 countries in 2008 alone. Robert's vision gave a voice to stories Hollywood overlooked, and it's emotional to think how many dreams he helped realize. Filmmakers who might have never had a chance without his passion. He also founded Sundance Cinemas, the Sundance Channel, and the Redford Center, blending his love for storytelling with environmental activism. His 2016 Presidential Medal of Freedom recognized not just his films but his impact on culture and conservation. Now, let's turn to Robert's personal life, a story marked by love, loss, and resilience. In 1958, at 22, he married Lola Van Wagenen, a historian and activist 20 years old. They were young, ambitious, and starting a life together in New York as Robert's career began to take shape. Their first child, Scott, was born in 1959, but tragedy struck just 2 months later when Scott died of sudden infant death syndrome, SIDS. Robert later spoke of the trauma, saying it lingered in subtle ways, never fully fading. The couple went on to have 3 more children: Shauna in 1960, David James, known as Jamie, in 1962, and Amy in 1970. Shauna became a painter, marrying journalist Eric Schlosser, and they have 2 children, Micah and Connor. Jamie followed his father into filmmaking, co-founding the Redford Center, but faced health struggles, undergoing 2 liver transplants in 1993 for primary sclerosing cholangitis. Tragically, Jamie passed away in 2020 at 58 from bile duct cancer, a devastating blow to Robert. Amy, the youngest, became an actress and director, with projects like The Guitar. Robert and Lola divorced in 1985, though they remained amicable. The loss of 2 sons and the challenges of fame tested Robert, but he carried his grief quietly, channeling it into his work. In 1996, Robert met Sibylle Sagers, a German multimedia artist, at his Sundance resort. Their connection was immediate, grounded in shared values rather than Hollywood glitz. They moved in together that year and married in 2009 in a private ceremony in Hamburg, Germany. Sibylle, 20 years his junior, brought a new chapter of joy, with Robert calling her a very special person who gave him a whole new life. They lived primarily in Sundance, Utah, with homes in California and New Mexico, embracing a lifestyle rooted in nature and creativity. Robert was private but warm, known for his love of skiing, hiking, and environmental causes. He supported groups like the Natural Resources Defense Council, using his wealth and fame to advocate for conservation. His net worth, estimated at $200 million at the time of his death, came from his acting salaries. $500,000 for The Sting, about $3.5 million today, $11 million for The Last Castle, and his Sundance ventures, including selling his catalog business for $40 million in 2004. Yet, he lived modestly, valuing experiences over extravagance. The final chapter of Robert Redford's life was as poignant as his films. In 2018, at 82, he announced his retirement from acting after The Old Man and the Gun, though he later made a cameo in the TV series Dark Winds, where he served as an executive producer. His last years were spent quietly at Sundance, surrounded by the mountains he loved, with Sibylle and his family. On September 16, 2025, he passed away in his sleep, as confirmed by his publicist Cindy Berger. No specific cause of death was disclosed, but reports suggest it was natural, a peaceful end for a man who lived with purpose. The news sent ripples through Hollywood and beyond. Meryl Streep, his co-star in Out of Africa, called him one of the lions, while Hillary Clinton praised his progressive values. Fans flooded social media with tributes, sharing clips of his films and memories of Sundance. It's heartbreaking to imagine a world without his presence. Yet his work, his films, his festival, his activism, feels eternal. Robert Redford's life was a tapestry of beauty and pain, of chasing dreams and giving back. From a rebellious kid in Van Nuys to a global icon, he never lost his humanity. His films made us laugh, cry, and think. His Sundance Institute gave countless artists a voice, and his love for the planet inspired change. He faced unimaginable losses, his mother, 2 sons, and yet found ways to turn grief into art. His love story with Sibylle, his bond with his daughters Shauna and Amy, and his 7 grandchildren carry his spirit forward. As we reflect on his 89 years, it's impossible not to feel a mix of sorrow and gratitude. Robert once said, quoting T.S. Eliot, "There's only the trying. The rest is not our business." He tried, and oh, how he succeeded. If this journey through Robert Redford's extraordinary life touched your heart, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel for more stories of legends who shaped our world. Your support keeps their legacies alive. Thank you for watching, and until next time, let's keep trying, just as Robert did.